Space was silent, but silence could be dangerous too. A single ship floated in the middle of nowhere, small and quiet against the darkness. Around it, dozens of massive alien warships surrounded it like wolves around a rabbit. Their metal hulls glowed with cold blue light, and their weapons were already pointed at the tiny human ship. Inside that small ship sat one woman. Her name was Ambassador Elena Cross. She wore a simple gray uniform. No medals, no decorations, just the flag of Earth on her shoulder. Her hands were steady on the table in front of her, even though outside death waited in silence. On the massive alien flagship, the commander of the fleet watched her through a screen. His name was Draxel, a tall creature with sharp eyes and a voice like grinding stone. He looked at the tiny ship and laughed, a deep, mocking laugh that echoed through his bridge. "This," Draxel said, turning to his officers, "this is what Earth sends to negotiate with us. One ship, one human." His officers laughed with him. Some of them didn't even bother to stand at attention anymore. They believed this was already over. Elena did not flinch. She looked straight into the camera, straight into Draxel's eyes, and spoke calmly. "We are not here to fight you. We are here to warn you." Draxel leaned forward, amused. "Warn us of what? Your primitive weapons, your slow ships. Human, we have studied your kind for years. You are weak. You fight each other over land, over water, over foolish things. You are not a threat to us." Elena's voice did not shake. "You have studied our history, but you have not understood it." Draxel waved his hand. "Enough talk. Tell your leaders this. Surrender your planet or we will take it by force. You have no fleet that can stand against us, no weapon that can hurt us. You are alone out here." Elena took a slow breath. She looked at the screen at the thousands of alien soldiers standing behind Draxel, ready for war. Then she said the words that would echo across the galaxy in the days to come. "You think we are weak because we have not shown you our strength, but you do not know what you are threatening. Humanity has fought wars before. Wars far darker than anything you can imagine. We have learned, we have built, we have waited. And now you stand at our door mocking us, not knowing what waits behind it." For a moment, the bridge went quiet. Even Draxel's smile faded just slightly. But then one of his younger officers laughed, breaking the silence. "She is bluffing, Commander. Humans are known for big words and small ships." Draxel's smile returned colder this time. "You are right, Ambassador Cross. We do not fear words. We fear only strength, and you have shown none." He turned to his crew. "Prepare to take their homeworld. Send the message to the rest of the fleet. Earth will fall by tomorrow." Elena did not move. She only said one more sentence before closing the channel. "You should have listened. Back on Earth, deep underground, far below the busy cities and calm oceans, a very different scene was happening. In a massive control room, screens lit up the darkness. Rows of officers sat quietly watching data flow in from deep space. No panic, no fear. Just calm, steady work, like they had done this 1,000 times before. At the center of the room stood General Marcus Hale, an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too many wars. He watched a large screen showing the alien fleet surrounding Elena's ship. Beside him stood a young officer, Lieutenant Sarah Voss. She looked nervous, her hands slightly shaking as she watched the numbers on the screen. "Sir, they have overwhelming numbers. 42 warships. Our ambassador is alone out there." General Hale did not turn his head. His eyes stayed fixed on the screen. "She is exactly where she needs to be." Sarah blinked, confused. "Sir, they needed to see us as weak," Hale said quietly. "That was always the plan. Let them underestimate us. Let them laugh. Let them come close." Sarah swallowed hard. "And if they attack the ambassador's ship?" Hale's jaw tightened just slightly. "They won't get the chance." He turned to another officer standing near a large control panel. "Status on Project Thunder." The officer typed quickly, then looked up. "Fully charged. Ready on your command, General." Sarah looked between them, her confusion growing. "Project Thunder. Sir, what is that?" Hale finally turned to look at her, his old eyes calm but serious. "Something we built after the wars ended on Earth. Something we hoped we would never need to use, but something we always knew we might have to." Before Sarah could ask more questions, an alarm began to blink softly on the main screen. Not loud, not panicked, just a quiet warning. "Sir," another officer called out, Enemy fleet is moving into attack position around the ambassador's ship. Hale's face did not change. He simply raised his hand. Let them move. Sarah stared at him. Sir, they're about to open fire. No, Hale said quietly, watching the screen. They're about to hear something they were never ready for. Back in deep space, Draxel stood on his bridge, watching Elena's tiny ship with growing impatience. Enough games, he said. Target their ship. Disable it. We will take the ambassador as a prisoner, a symbol of Earth's surrender. His weapons officer nodded and began locking onto Elena's ship. Inside her ship, Elena watched the alien vessels move closer. Red lights began flashing on her control panel. A warning that weapons were being aimed directly at her, but she did not look afraid. In fact, the corner of her lips lifted just slightly into something close to a smile. She pressed a small button on her console, sending one final message back to Earth. Just 3 words. They didn't listen. On the alien flagship, Draxel raised his hand, ready to give the final order to fire. And that was the moment it began. A deep sound rolled through space. Not loud like an explosion, not sharp like a weapon, but low and heavy, like the beginning of thunder rolling across a dark sky before a storm. Every alien ship's sensors picked it up at the same time. Officers turned to their screens, confused. Some thought it was an error in their equipment. Others felt in strange, unfamiliar fear crawl up their spines, though they did not know why. Draxel froze, his hands still raised in the air. What? He said slowly. Is that sound? His sensor officer's hands moved quickly over the controls, his face turning pale. Commander, I don't know. It's coming from everywhere and nowhere. It's not a weapon signature we recognize. The low sound grew slightly louder, steady, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. One of the younger officers, the same one who had laughed earlier, looked up at Draxel, his confidence completely gone now. Commander, should we retreat? Draxel did not answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on the screen, on Elena's tiny ship, still sitting calmly in the middle of his fleet, unharmed, untouched, patient. Slowly, very slowly, Draxel lowered his hand. For the first time since he had arrived, doubt crept into his mind. He turned to his weapons officer, his voice quieter now. Belay that order. Do not fire yet. The sound continued to grow deep and steady, filling the silence of space like the footsteps of something massive approaching from far away. Draxel's eyes narrowed as he stared at Elena's calm face on his screen. He finally understood. This was not a bluff. This was not desperation. This was a warning, just like she had said. Ambassador Cross, he said slowly, his voice losing its earlier arrogance. What is that sound? Elena looked directly into the camera, and for the first time her calm expression shifted into something colder, something final. That, she said quietly, is the sound of a promise we made a long time ago. The promise that if anyone ever threatened our home, they would hear us coming before they ever saw us. Draxel's grip tightened on the edge of his command chair. Coming from where? Elena's eyes did not blink. Everywhere. The thunder grew louder, and far behind the alien fleet, but hidden in the darkness of space where no sensors had thought to look, something massive began to move. The sound did not stop. It grew slow and steady, like something enormous breathing in the dark. On the alien flagship, Draxel stood frozen, his eyes locked on the sensor screen. His weapons officer, a creature named Vayoth, worked frantically at his console, trying to understand the strange signal. His hands moved fast, but his face showed only confusion. Commander, Vayoth said, his voice shaking slightly. I cannot find the source. It is not coming from one direction. It is coming from all around us. Draxel's claws tightened around the edge of his chair. That is not possible. Nothing moves without leaving a trace. Check again. Both checked again. His screen filled with lines of data, none of it making sense. Sir, our sensors are old technology. We took them from a destroyed human outpost years ago. Maybe this signal is something our systems were never built to detect. The bridge went quiet, except for the low, steady thunder that continued to grow. Behind Draxel, his younger officer, the one who had laughed earlier, now stood pale and silent. His name was Kesish, and his earlier confidence had completely disappeared. He stepped closer to Draxel. Commander, should we not retreat just to be safe? Draxel turned to him sharply. Retreat? We have 42 warships. We outnumber this ambassador's single ship completely. We will not run from a sound. But even as he said it, his voice did not sound as confident as before. Deep underground in Earth's command center, General Marcus Hale watched the same event unfold on his own screens. Calm as ever, Lieutenant Sarah Voss stood beside him, still trying to understand everything happening around her. "Sir," she said quietly, "the enemy fleet is confused. Their formation is breaking apart slightly. Some ships are moving back." Hale nodded slowly. "Good. Let them feel it. Let them feel what they should have felt a long time ago." Sarah turned to him. "Sir, what exactly is Project Thunder? I've never heard of it before today." Hale was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant, remembering something from long ago. After the last great war on Earth, many years ago, our leaders realized something important. We are not the strongest in numbers, we are not the strongest in size, but we understood something no other species had learned yet. Sarah waited, listening closely. "Patience," Hale said, "and the willingness to build something quietly without showing it to the world. We built more than weapons, Sarah. We built a message, a warning system so powerful that if anyone ever came to hurt us, they would feel it before they even saw it." Sarah's eyes widened slightly. "The sound." Hale nodded. "It is not just a sound. It is the sound of something ancient and massive waking up. Something we hoped we would never need, but we're using it now," Sarah said. "Because they chose war," Hale said quietly. "We tried peace first. Ambassador Cross gave them every chance to walk away." Back in deep space, Elena Cross remained perfectly calm inside her small ship. Around her, more alien ships adjusted their positions nervously, some pulling back slightly, others staying in place out of stubborn pride. On the main view screen inside her cockpit, she could see Draxel's face, his earlier arrogance now replaced with something closer to worry. "Ambassador," Draxel said, his voice lower now, more serious. "Tell me what this sound is now." Elena tilted her head slightly. "I already told you, Commander. It's a promise. I do not care for riddles," Draxel snapped, though his voice lacked its earlier strength. "Tell me plainly what is coming." Elena leaned back in her seat, her eyes steady. "You wanted proof that Earth was strong. You didn't believe our warnings. So now you're going to see the proof for yourself." Draxel's fists clenched at his sides. "If this is some trick, it's not a trick," Elena interrupted calmly. "It's simply patience finally running out." The low thunder in the background grew slightly louder, deeper, filling the silence between every word. Draxel turned to his crew. "Someone locate the source of that sound now. I want answers, not confusion." His sensor officer worked desperately, sweat forming on his brow. He tapped different controls, trying various scanning methods. Then his eyes suddenly widened. "Commander, I found something." Draxel rushed over. "Show me." The officer pointed to a section of space far behind their fleet, an area they had previously scanned and found completely empty. Now, faint shapes were beginning to appear, distorted and unclear, like shadows hiding behind a curtain of static. "What is that?" Draxel asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know, sir," the officer replied. "But it's big, very big, and it's getting closer." Meanwhile on Earth, deep in a hidden facility far beneath the mountains, massive engines began to hum quietly, awakening from a long sleep. Lights flickered on across an enormous hangar, illuminating something colossal hidden in shadows, something no camera in the galaxy had ever captured clearly before. Technicians moved quickly but calmly across control panels, checking systems one by one. A woman named Dr. Naomi Reyes, chief engineer of Project Thunder, watched carefully as her team worked. She turned to a soldier standing nearby. "Tell General Hale the mothership is ready." The soldier nodded and relayed the message immediately. Naomi looked up at the massive shape above her, still mostly hidden in darkness, only its outline visible in the dim light. She had spent years of her life working on this project. Most of her team never even truly believed they would use it. They hoped it would remain hidden forever, a silent guardian never needed. But today, that silence was ending. Back in space, alarms began ringing louder throughout Draxel's fleet. Ships shifted nervously in formation, some captains requesting permission to retreat. Draxel refused each request, still gripped by stubborn pride. Kesich approached him again, his voice trembling slightly. Commander, our scanners show the object is massive, larger than anything in our records. If it is a weapon, it is not a weapon, Draxel said, though his voice lacked certainty. It cannot be. Nothing could hide something that large without detection. But even as he spoke, the shape behind them grew clearer. Slowly, painfully, slowly, a massive silhouette began emerging from the darkness, its edges glowing faintly with deep blue light, like veins of lightning trapped beneath metal skin. The thunder grew louder, echoing through space itself, vibrating through the hulls of every alien ship. Elena watched calmly from her ship, feeling the vibrations beneath her seat. She allowed herself the smallest of smiles. It's about time. On Draxel's bridge, panic slowly spread among his crew. Officers whispered nervously to each other, some pointing shaking fingers at their screens. Kessex paired next to Draxel. Commander, please give the order to retreat before it's too late. Draxel's eyes remained fixed on the emerging shape, his mind racing. He thought back to years of studying humanity, viewing them as primitive, weak, unworthy of true fear. He had believed their so-called wars were nothing but disorganized chaos, small skirmishes fought with crude weapons. He had been wrong. Slowly, the massive shape moved further into view, larger than any ship Draxel had ever seen, larger than entire alien battle stations built over generations. Its surface glowed with deep energy lines pulsing rhythmically, matching perfectly with the low, thunderous sound rolling through space. Identify that ship, Draxel commanded, though his voice barely came out steady. His sensor officer's hands shook as he replied, Commander, my scanners cannot fully identify its size, energy output. It is unlike anything in our records. Kessex's voice rose in panic. This has to be a trick. No civilization we know could build something this large without us ever hearing about it. Perhaps, Draxel said quietly, his earlier arrogance completely gone now. We simply never wanted to believe humanity capable of such things. Inside her ship, Elena received a quiet message on her console, a simple text from General Hale. Mothership online approaching your coordinates. Hold position. She smiled slightly, typing back a short reply. Copy that. They're finally starting to understand. Turning her attention back to the view screen, Elena watched as Draxel's fleet grew more disorganized, more panicked. Ships shifted nervously, some drifting out of formation entirely, unable to hide their fear any longer. She spoke calmly into her communicator, addressing Draxel directly one final time before the true confrontation would begin. Commander Draxel, you came here today expecting an easy victory. You saw one small ship, one calm woman, and believed Earth had nothing left to offer but words. But now you see the truth. We do not seek war. We never wanted this confrontation. But we will not be threatened. We will not be dismissed as weak. Not anymore. Draxel remained silent, his eyes locked onto the enormous shape steadily approaching from behind his fleet. Its thunder now shaking every ship's hull gently, like the deep breathing of some slumbering giant finally waking after a long rest. Kesich whispered nervously beside him. Commander, what do we do? Draxel's jaw tightened, his mind torn between pride and fear. After a long pause, he finally spoke. His voice quiet but firm. We wait. We see what Earth truly intends. The massive mothership continued its slow approach, its shadow stretching across the stars, swallowing the darkness itself. The thunder rolled steadily onward, filling the silence of space with a warning that could no longer be ignored. Somewhere among the frightened alien fleet, realization began to dawn. Humanity had never been weak. They had simply been waiting, patient and quiet. For the moment, the galaxy would finally understand the true meaning behind their silence. And now, that moment had finally arrived. The massive shape had fully emerged. Now, no longer hidden in shadow, no longer a mystery. It hung in space like a dark moon, its surface covered in deep glowing lines of blue and gold light, pulsing slowly, like veins carrying something alive beneath metal skin. Every alien ship in Draxel's fleet had stopped moving. Engines idled nervously. Weapons remained locked but unused. No one gave the order to fire. No one dared. On the bridge of the flagship, Draxel stood in silence, staring at the screen. His claws pressed so hard against the arm of his chair that the metal had begun to bend slightly. He had commanded fleets for over 30 years. He had seen war, he had seen death, but he had never felt what he was feeling now: fear. Keswick stood beside him, his voice barely a whisper. "Commander, it's not moving toward us. It's just sitting there." "It's not sitting," Draxel said quietly. "It's waiting." Inside her small ship, Elena Cross watched the mothership's arrival with quiet pride. She had waited years for this moment, trained for it, prepared for it, but even she felt a small chill run down her spine as she watched its massive form block out the stars behind it. Her communicator beeped softly. General Hale's voice came through calm as always. "Ambassador, are you secure?" "I'm fine, General," she replied. "They're too scared to do anything right now." "Good," Hale said. "Let them stay that way." Sarah transfer feed to Ambassador Cross's screen. A moment later, Elena's screen changed, showing a live transmission from Earth's command center. General Hale's face appeared, steady and serious. "Ambassador, when you're ready, give the final message. Let's finish this without bloodshed if possible." Elena nodded. "Understood, sir." She turned back to her main view screen, opening a communication channel directly to Draxel's ship. On the alien flagship, Draxel's screen flickered as Elena's face appeared again, calm, unshaken. "Commander Draxel," she said, "I believe you now understand that Earth is not as weak as you assumed." Draxel's throat tightened. "What is that thing?" "That," Elena said, "is what happens when a species spends generations preparing quietly without pride, without boasting, just patience. You called us primitive. You called us disorganized. But every war we ever fought taught us something. Every mistake we made became a lesson. We built this not to conquer, but to protect. And right now, it is simply here to make sure you understand exactly how serious our warning was." Draxel's hands shook slightly, though he tried to hide it. "You could have simply told us your strength. Why show us like this? Why let us mock you first?" Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. "Because arrogance only listens to proof. Words alone would have meant nothing to you. You needed to see it. You needed to feel it." Keswick, standing nearby, whispered anxiously to Draxel, "Commander, please, we should retreat while we still have the chance." Draxel remained silent for a long moment, staring at the massive mothership on his screen. Slowly, very slowly, something inside him shifted. His pride, once unshakable, began to crumble beneath the weight of undeniable truth. "Ambassador," he said finally, his voice quieter than before, "what do you want from us?" Elena's expression softened slightly, though her voice remained firm. "We want peace, Commander. We always did. But peace must be built on respect, not fear. You came here ready to take our planet by force, believing we could not stop you. Now you know the truth. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?" Deep beneath Earth's surface, General Hale watched the exchange carefully. Sarah stood beside him, her earlier nervousness now replaced by quiet awe as she watched the mothership's massive form on the screen. "Sir," she said softly, "it's beautiful, in a terrifying sort of way." Hale allowed himself a small, tired smile. That's exactly what it was built to be. A warning wrapped in wonder, enough to make anyone think twice before threatening us again. Sarah looked at him curious. "Sir, if I may ask, why did you wait so long to reveal it? Why let the ambassador stand alone against 42 warships?" Hale's eyes grew distant for a moment, remembering old battles fought long before Sarah's time. "Because strength without patience is just recklessness, Sarah. We wanted to give them every chance to walk away peacefully first. Only when words failed did we let them see what waited in the shadows." Sarah nodded slowly, understanding settling over her like a heavy blanket. "And if they don't turn back now," Hale's expression hardened slightly, though his voice remained steady, "then they'll learn exactly why Earth built something powerful enough to remain hidden until now." Back on Draxel's bridge, tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. Draxel stared at Elena's calm face, his mind torn between decades of pride and the undeniable fear now gripping his fleet. Finally, sensing the depth of his soldiers' growing panic, Draxel turned to his weapons officer. "Stand down. Do not fire unless fired upon." Keswick let out a breath of relief, though his eyes remained wide with lingering fear. Draxel turned back to Elena. "We will discuss terms, Ambassador, peacefully." Elena allowed herself a small nod. "That's all we ever wanted, Commander." But just as the tension began to ease slightly, One of Draxel's officers, a hot-headed young soldier named Ven, who had remained silent until now, slammed his hand against his console in frustration. This is humiliating. We outnumber them completely. Are we really going to retreat because of one ship, no matter how large? Draxel turned sharply. Ven, stand down. But Ven ignored him, his pride overpowering his fear. No, I refuse to back down because of some oversized bluff. He turned to the weapon station beside him, and before anyone could stop him, activated the firing sequence, targeting Elena's small ship directly. Alarms blared through the alien flagship. Ven, stand down now, Draxel shouted. But it was too late. A single energy blast fired from Ven's console, streaking through space directly toward Elena's ship. Elena's eyes widened for just a moment, but before the blast could reach her, something massive moved. From the mothership, a shimmering wall of blue light expanded outward in an instant, wrapping protectively around Elena's small ship, like a gentle hand catching a falling child. The alien blast collided with the shield and dissolved harmlessly into sparks of light. Silence followed, heavy and absolute. Draxel rounded on Ven, his voice a furious growl. You fool! Do you understand what you just did? Ven stared at his console, pale and shaking, realizing the weight of his mistake. On the main view screen, Elena's voice returned, calm, but noticeably colder now. That, she said, was a mistake. Draxel's stomach tightened. Ambassador, that was not authorized by me. Please, this was the action of one reckless soldier. I understand, Elena interrupted. But understand this as well, Commander. We gave you patience. We gave you warnings. We gave you every chance to walk away peacefully. But your soldier just proved something important. Some of you still don't understand the seriousness of this moment. Draxel's claws dug into his chair. Please do not retaliate for one soldier's mistake. Elena's eyes remained steady. We won't destroy your fleet, Commander. Not today. But you need a clearer reminder of exactly what you're dealing with. She turned slightly, speaking now toward her communicator back to Earth. General, permission to proceed with Phase 2. On the other end, General Hale's voice returned firm and steady. Permission granted, Ambassador. Let them see it fully. Back on the mothership, deep within its massive core, Dr. Naomi Reyes watched carefully as new commands flowed through her systems. She turned to her team. Prepare to open the main gates. Let's show them exactly what we've built. Slowly, deep grinding sounds echoed through space as massive sections of the mothership's outer hull began to shift. Panels folded outward like the petals of some enormous mechanical flower, revealing glowing chambers filled with pulsing energy deep inside its core. The thunder that had echoed since the beginning grew louder now, deeper, more powerful, vibrating through the hulls of every alien ship in Draxel's fleet. On the bridge, Draxel watched in stunned silence as the true scale of the mothership became fully visible for the first time. Its massive gates opened wide, revealing glowing energy chambers larger than entire alien cities, pulsing with barely contained power. Kessix's voice trembled beside him. Commander, what is that? Draxel could not answer. His eyes remained locked onto the screen, watching as humanity's true strength finally revealed itself. No longer hidden, no longer silent. For the first time in his long military career, Draxel felt something he had never truly felt before. Not in any battle, not against any enemy fleet. He felt small. Elena watched calmly from her ship, as the mothership's gates fully opened behind her, its light illuminating the darkness of space like a rising sun. She turned back to her screen, addressing Draxel one final time before the final act of this confrontation would begin. Commander, she said quietly, you wanted proof that Earth was not to be underestimated. Now you have it. The question remains, will you finally listen? Draxel stared at the screen, his pride completely shattered, replaced now by something closer to humble understanding. Slowly, he straightened his posture, his voice quiet but sincere. Yes, Ambassador, we're listening now. Behind him, the mothership's glowing chambers pulsed steadily, its thunderous heartbeat echoing across the stars, a silent promise finally fulfilled. No longer hidden in shadows, no longer underestimated, Earth had spoken, and the galaxy had finally heard. The mothership's gates remained open, glowing softly, like the mouth of a sleeping giant finally waking up. Space around Draxel's fleet felt different now, heavier, filled with a quiet tension that no one dared to break. Draxel stood on his bridge, his earlier pride now replaced by careful respect. He turned to Elena's image on his screen. "Ambassador Cross, we are listening. Please tell us what Earth wants." Elena's expression remained calm, though her eyes carried the weight of everything that had happened. "Earth doesn't want war, Commander. We never did. All we ever wanted was to be left alone, to grow, to build, to live in peace. But when you came here with threats, we had no choice but to show you the truth." Draxel lowered his head slightly. "We misjudged you. We saw only your history of conflict. We never considered that conflict might have taught you something valuable." "Every species learns differently," Elena replied. "Yours learned through conquest. Ours learned through survival. We fought each other for centuries. Yes, but in the end, we also learned how to stand together when it truly mattered." Back on Earth, deep in the command center, General Hale watched the conversation unfold with quiet satisfaction. Sarah stood close by, her earlier fear now replaced with something like pride. "Sir," she said softly, "I think they're finally starting to understand us." Hale nodded slowly. "Understanding is the first step. Respect comes next. Peace, if we're lucky, follows after that." Sarah glanced at the massive image of the mothership on the main screen. "Do you think Project Thunder will ever need to be used again?" Hale's eyes grew distant, thinking of all the years spent building something they hoped would never be needed. "I hope not, Sarah. But hope alone never protected anyone. That's why we built it. Not to start wars, but to make sure we never have to fight one we can't win." Back in space, Draxel turned to his crew, his voice steady now. "Stand down all weapons. Full retreat from Earth's territory. We are leaving." His officers, still shaken from what they had witnessed, quickly obeyed. Ships began to shift, turning away from Earth's system, their earlier arrogance completely gone. Kesich approached Draxel quietly. "Commander, what will you tell the Alliance Council when we return?" Draxel was silent for a moment, staring at the massive mothership one final time, before it would fade from view. "I will tell them the truth, that Earth is not a planet to be underestimated, that their strength is not in their numbers, but in their patience, and that any species foolish enough to threaten them again will hear the same warning we did." Kesich nodded slowly. "And Ven, Commander, what happens to him?" Draxel's eyes hardened slightly. "He will face judgment for his actions. Reckless pride nearly started a war today that cannot go unpunished." As the alien fleet began its slow retreat, Elena watched from her ship, a small, tired smile finally forming on her face. She opened a private channel back to Earth. "General, they're leaving." Hale's voice came through steady and calm. "Good work, Ambassador. You did exactly what needed to be done." "It wasn't just me," Elena replied, glancing toward the massive mothership still glowing quietly behind her. "It was all of us. Every soldier, every engineer, every person who believed we could build something strong enough to protect our home without needing to use it carelessly." Hale allowed himself a rare, warm smile. "That's exactly the point, Elena. Strength isn't about using power. It's about having it ready just in case, and hoping you never have to." Days later, news of the encounter spread quietly through the galaxy. Other species who had once considered Earth an easy target began reconsidering their plans. Rumors spread of a massive, thunderous ship hidden somewhere within Earth's system, a silent guardian, capable of ending any threat with a single warning. Some species mocked the rumors, refusing to believe such stories. Others grew cautious, choosing diplomacy over aggression when dealing with humanity from that point forward. Back on Earth, life continued much as it always had. Cities buzzed with daily life. Children played in parks, unaware of how close their world had come to war. Only a select few understood the truth behind Project Thunder, and they preferred to keep it that way. In the underground command center, General Hale stood alone, staring quietly at a small model of the mothership resting on his desk, a reminder of everything Earth had built to protect itself. Sarah entered quietly, holding a datapad. "Sir, Ambassador Cross has returned safely. She's requesting a private meeting with you." Hale nodded. "Send her in." Moments later, Elena walked into the room looking tired but calm. She saluted briefly before relaxing. General Ambassador Hale replied warmly, "You did well out there." Elena took a seat across from him. It was close, General. If Ren's attack had been aimed slightly differently, this could have ended very differently. Hale nodded solemnly. Which is why we can never grow careless. Even with something as powerful as Project Thunder, one mistake could have changed everything. Elena studied him for a moment. General, do you think other species will test us again? Hale considered the question carefully before answering. Some will. Pride and curiosity are common weaknesses among many species, including our own want once. But now, they know the cost of underestimating us. Elena leaned back slightly. And if they don't listen? If someone else decides to challenge us despite the warning? Hale's eyes grew serious, though his voice remained calm. Then they'll learn the same lesson Draxel's fleet did. Sometimes peace requires more than just words. Sometimes it requires proof. Far above Earth, hidden once again within the shadows of deep space, the Mothership powered down slowly, its glowing lights dimming one by one, returning to its quiet, patient rest, waiting silently, ready to awaken again if ever needed. Inside the vast control room built deep within its core, Dr. Naomi Reyes watched the final system shut down. Her team worked quietly around her, securing the massive ship back into hibernation. One of her younger engineers, a nervous young man named Thomas, approached her cautiously. Doctor, do you think we'll ever need to fully use it? I mean, really use it? Naomi considered the question for a long moment, staring up at the massive, silent shape above her. I hope not, Thomas. I hope Draxel's fleet was the only lesson we ever need to teach. But if the day comes when someone doesn't listen to reason, we'll be ready. Thomas nodded slowly, glancing nervously at the enormous ship above them. It's strange, isn't it? Building something so powerful, hoping we never have to use it. Naomi smiled softly. That's exactly what makes it worth building, Thomas. True strength isn't about seeking conflict. It's about being prepared. So peace remains a choice, not a weakness. Meanwhile, aboard Draxel's retreating flagship, Kesich approached his commander one final time. Commander, do you regret coming here? Draxel stared out at the stars, watching Earth's systems slowly disappear behind them. No, Kesich. I regret underestimating them, but I do not regret learning the truth before it cost us everything. Kesich nodded quietly, understanding settling over him like a heavy blanket. What will we tell the others? Draxel's eyes remained fixed on the fading stars behind them. We'll tell them the truth, that Earth is no longer a world to be tested lightly, that somewhere among the stars, humanity built something powerful enough to remind even the proudest fleets what patience and preparation truly mean. Back on Earth, as the sun set peacefully over quiet cities, unaware of how close they had come to war, General Hale stood outside the command center, looking up at the darkening sky. Elena joined him quietly, both watching the stars begin to appear one by one. Do you think we made the right choice? Elena asked softly, building something so powerful, keeping it hidden all these years. Hale was silent for a long moment before answering. I think the right choice was never about building power, Elena. It was about knowing when and if to use it. Peace isn't the absence of strength. It's strength used wisely. Elena nodded slowly, watching the stars twinkle peacefully above them. Let's hope we never have to prove it again. Hale allowed himself a small, tired smile. Let's hope. But if we do, at least now they'll know exactly what waits for them. Quiet, patient, and ready. Just like thunder before a storm, above them, hidden silently among the stars, the Mothership rested peacefully, waiting patiently, its promise fulfilled. Its thunder silent once more, until perhaps another day, another warning, another moment when Earth's quiet strength would once again need to answer loud and clear across the endless darkness of space. The end.